First up tonight, the parent company of several major hospitals in our state has filed for bankruptcy. Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us tonight at 6. I'm Bryant Reed. Prospect Holdings, a company that owns 3 Connecticut hospitals, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Your reporter, Hector Molina, joins us live in studio tonight with which hospitals exactly are impacted. And he also has reaction from lawmakers and also medical experts. So, Hector, what can you tell us?
Well, Brian, this is a decision that impacts Waterbury Hospital, Manchester Memorial Hospital, and Rockville General Hospital. Being that this is a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, this doesn't mean that these hospitals are going out of business. This means that they're using the Chapter 11 process to restructure their finances and implement agreements that will strengthen their organizations for long-term success. Tonight, I spoke with State Senator and medical doctor Jeffrey Gordon about the announcement, one that he wasn't surprised to hear.
I've seen what's going on with private equity around the country owning hospitals. During my time as a senator, I've been sounding alarm bells about this and really seeing what we can do to facilitate the sale of these hospitals in ECHN, get Prospect Medical completely out of the state.
And Senator Gordon says Yale has actually shown interest in being a potential buyer, but he said it's still too soon to tell what will happen next in this process. Your reporter in studio, Hector Molina, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.